Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping straight into quite a complex picture from November 12, 2025.
Yeah, it's a fascinating moment.
What's really striking is this contrast, isn't it? On one side, you have diplomacy looking, well, officially frozen.
Completely stalled, yeah.
But then on the other hand, the military planning, the action on the front lines, it seems to be intensifying dramatically.
And that's exactly the tension we want to unpack for you. Our mission today is really synthesizing these different threads. We've got sources on the negotiation status or lack thereof.
Right.
We're looking at critical infrastructure, specifically the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Then there are reports of specific military moves and these pretty high-level strategic analyses coming out in Western media.
So we're distilling what really matters at this specific point in time.
Precisely. For you, the well-informed learner.
And the headline focus seems to be this: Ukraine officially calling time on negotiations.
Right, when we're hearing about an alleged, 20-kilometer military breakthrough?
Exactly. And this major strategic analysis of Russia's supposed long-term goals, just published. Okay, let's dive in. Starting with that diplomatic freeze.
Okay.
So the main diplomatic news came from the Ukrainian Deputy Foreign Minister, Sergei Kyslytsya. He announced negotiations with Russia are, quote, officially terminated.
And this wasn't out of the blue, was it?
No, not really. The reason they gave was the lack of any real progress in those recent talks over the summer.
The ones in Istanbul, May, June, July, I think.
That's right, May 16, June 2, July 23. Basically, they said nothing substantive came out of them.
So Kiev draws a very clear line, but then you have the Russian position.
Yeah, the counter came from Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin's press secretary. He stated, basically, that Russia is still open to negotiating.
Which is, that's been Moscow's fairly consistent public stance, hasn't it? Keep the door looking open, at least from their side.
But here's where Peskov's comments get, well, really interesting. He offered this analysis of what he sees as Western tendencies.
Ah, yes, the alleged friction between the allies.
Exactly. He claims European countries are leaning towards, more support for Kyiv, continuing the war.
Yep.
But he suggests the Americans seem to be leaning towards maybe wanting a pause.
A pause. That's a carefully chosen word.
It is.
And that's really a critical point for you, the listener, to grasp, because it hints at these potentially diverging pressures on Kyiv, right? You've got this internal declaration, no more talks. But externally, Peskov is suggesting their main allies might not be totally aligned on the next steps.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If Peskov's read is right, does Kyiv's decision maybe expose that friction? Or perhaps even try to force the issue?
It could. Closing the diplomatic door kind of forces allies to decide, doesn't it? Are you fully committed to the military path or not? It makes ambiguity harder.
Okay, speaking of commitment, let's shift to strategy. How are external observers looking at the long game here? We had two quite provocative analyses in our sources.
Yeah, one looking at grand strategy, the other much more focused on, the practical realities of governance and aid.
Let's start with that big picture view. The Foreign Affairs piece by James Watling.
Right. Watling outlines what he calls an alleged new Russian three-step strategy. And the goal described isn't just about the current front lines, it's framed as the subjugation of Ukraine.
Subjugation. That's strong language. So let's break down these alleged steps. Phase 1. What's the objective there, according to Watling?
Phase 1 is all about territory. Specifically, gaining control over key regions he names Kharkiv, Nikolaev, and Odessa, in addition to the 4 regions Russia already claims.
So basically the entire south and east.
And the crucial outcome there, the strategic goal, is cutting Ukraine off completely from the Black Sea, severing its maritime access.
That's huge. A total economic and geographic shift. What comes after that in Phase 2, assuming Phase 1 succeeds?
Well, Phase 2, according to this analysis, kicks in after those territorial gains, maybe using a ceasefire as a sort of transition point. Then the pressure shifts.
For military too.
Economic leverage, using that control, that chokehold, to exert economic pressure on whatever remains of Ukraine.
And then Phase 3, what's the alleged endgame?
Phase 3 is integration. Russia incorporating Ukraine into its sphere of influence. Watling suggests the model might be something like Belarus turning Ukraine into a dependent ally. It's a vision of lasting strategic control.
Okay, that's the grand, perhaps alarming strategic picture painted by Watling. Now let's pivot
to the messy realities on the ground.
Exactly. We had Bloomberg's commentary focusing on this persistent issue, aid and alleged corruption. And it's fascinating how this high-level strategy discussion just crashes against these practical problems.
It really does. The Bloomberg piece honed in on a very specific and frankly pretty damaging scandal.
The $100 million one.
That's the one. Allegedly, $100 million earmarked for vital supplies, electricity, heating just vanished. Stolen.
Supplies that are absolutely critical, especially heading into winter.
Critical for survival, yeah. And the editorial stance in the article was, well, blunt.
How blunt?
The argument was basically that this scandal is, and I'm quoting loosely here, irrefutable proof that helping Ukraine is pointless because the money will just get stolen. It essentially called further aid futile.
Wow. That's a hammer blow, potentially, to international support.
Absolutely. So when you put these two pieces together, Foreign Affairs outlining this potential strategy for subjugation, and Bloomberg highlighting internal issues that could choke off aid.
You see the bind Kyiv is in.
Exactly. It frames the sheer scale of the challenge. They're fighting for territory, yes, but they're also fighting to maintain the financial and, frankly, the moral trust of their international partners. A war on two fronts, in a way.
Let's shift then to the very specific granular details, the battlefield itself and the security of that critical infrastructure. We got some updates from the news tickers.
And on the military side, there were reports of, well, potentially significant momentum shifts, which kind of underscores the urgency of those strategic discussions we just had.
What was the most striking report?
It came from a military analyst, Yuri Podoljaka. He reported a major breakthrough at Uspinoka.
A breakthrough? How significant?
The language he used was pretty dramatic. He said the front was, quote, ripped open on 20 kilometers.
20 kilometers, that's substantial.
Huge. He even commented, apparently, that he couldn't recall anything comparable during the entire war. Now, that's his analysis, of course.
Okay, so one side reports a major breakthrough. What about the Ukrainian movements described in the sources?
Well, juxtaposed against that, we have reports that Ukrainian units left the village of Ronopolye, that's in the Zaporizhia region. This was on the evening of November 11th.
And how do they frame that move?
The description was a move to more favorable positions. The stated goal was to preserve personnel after facing heavy shelling.
Okay, a tactical withdrawal.
And it's worth noting, this followed Russia announcing it had taken a nearby village, now Luspinoskoye. Another analyst, Andrei Marochko, added some context about Ronopolye itself.
What kind of context?
He noted the terrain there is mostly flat, open ground, apparently without significant defensive fortifications from the Ukrainian side.
So potentially an area easier to break through or harder to hold?
That seems to be the implication. You have an alleged major Russian advance potentially hitting a relatively less fortified area, while Ukraine pulls back, citing preservation of forces.
Okay, let's turn to the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. Critical infrastructure? Any stabilization there?
There was some positive news, albeit maybe temporary. The Rosatom CEO, Alexei Lichitcho, reported that the external power supply had stabilized.
How?
They managed to repair 2 external high-voltage lines. And importantly, he said this was only possible because of a temporary fire break.
A ceasefire?
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
Coordinated with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, to allow the repairs.
Okay, so the immediate power situation improved.
Yeah.
But is the area stable?
That's the caveat.
Yeah.
Lichitcho also noted the overall situation remains difficult. He alleged that Ukrainian forces resumed shelling after the repairs, targeting infrastructure outside the plant grounds, and also targets in the nearby city of Energodar.
So the plant itself got power back, but the surrounding area is still volatile.
That seems to be the picture. The risk isn't gone, and apparently Russia and the IAEA are set to meet again this Friday in Kaliningrad for more talks on security.
Right, ongoing discussions needed there. Okay, finally, let's touch on 2, let's call them high drama security incidents reported in the sources, starting with a really extraordinary claim from the FSB.
Yeah, this one sounds like something out of a spy novel. Russia's FSB, their main security service, claimed they foiled a plot.
A plot to do what?
Allegedly, a plot supported by Western intelligence and Kyiv to get a Russian pilot to defect with his jet.
Not just any jet, though.
No. A MiG-31 carrying a Kinzhal hypersonic missile.
Wow. A Kinzhal. And where were they supposedly trying to fly it?
The destination named in the claim was Romania.
Okay, now, we have to stress, this is the FSB's claim. We're just reporting what the source said.
Absolutely. Strict neutrality here. But the claim itself, if you think about it.
What does it suggest? Even as a claim?
Well, it really underscores the intensity and, frankly, the audacity of the intelligence war running in parallel to the conventional fighting. The idea of trying to acquire that kind of advanced tech, it shows just how high the stakes are in the covert realm. Whether this specific claim is verifiable or not is another question.
A whole other layer to the conflict. And then, on the civilian side, a much more direct incident.
Yes, a specific report of a drone strike inside Russia.
Where did this happen?
In the city of Grey Woron, which is in the Belgorod region, close to the border.
And what was hit?
A Ukrainian drone reportedly struck a civilian car. One man inside was injured. Apparently, he managed to get himself to the hospital.
And the sources mentioned the visual.
Yeah, reports included details about the damaged, burning vehicle. It's a stark reminder, isn't it? The immediate danger of this conflict spilling directly across the border and affecting civilians.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's try to pull these threads together, recapping the main tensions from this deep dive.
We've got that diplomatic door seemingly slammed shut by Teve.
Right. Then we have these reports of a potentially major military breakthrough that alleged 20 kilometers advance, hinting at tactical vulnerabilities.
And layered over all that is the international perspective, these risk assessments suggesting Ukraine could face either strategic subjugation, as outlined in that foreign affairs piece,
or potentially systemic failure if internal governance issues like that corruption scandal erode international support.
So what does it all mean when you put it together? I think the sources paint a picture not of stagnation, but maybe calcification.
Calcification, how so?
Well, the diplomatic lines seem harder, more rigid, and that rigidity seems to be setting the stage for potentially escalating consequences.
Both on the battlefield.
Yeah, with these reported frontline shifts, and strategically in this ongoing debate about future aid, long-term control, the very future of Ukraine.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, our listener, building on that foreign affairs analysis we discussed. If that assessment is even partially correct, that controlling Kharkiv, Nikolaev, and Odessa is seen as crucial for cutting Ukraine off from the Black Sea, a key step in that alleged Russian strategy.
Right.
How might that specific prediction influence decisions in the coming months? Not just Russian military planning, perhaps, but also Western priorities for aid, maybe defensive fortifications in those specific regions.
That's a really interesting lens to apply, isn't it? Thinking about how predictions themselves might shape actions.
Something for you to mull over. It certainly provides a strategic angle for watching future developments.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into today's source material.
We look forward to exploring the next set of developments with you soon.